Population growth is the increase in the number of individuals in a population. Global human population growth amounts to around 83 million annually, or 1.1% per year. The global population has grown from 1 billion in 1800 to 7.8 billion in 2020. It is expected to keep growing, and estimates have put the total population at 8.6 billion by mid-2030, 9.8 billion by mid-2050 and 11.2 billion by 2100. Many nations with rapid population growth have low standards of living, whereas many nations with low rates of population growth have high standards of living. Some of the reasons for the modern rise of population were particularly investigated by the British health scientist Thomas McKeown, 1912–1988. In his publications, McKeown challenged 4 theories about the population growth. McKeown stated that the growth in Western population, particularly surging in the 19th century, was not so much caused by an increase in fertility, but largely by a decline of mortality, particularly of childhood mortality, followed by infant mortality. The decline of mortality could largely be attributed to rising standards of living, whereby McKeown put most emphasis on improved nutritional status. His most controversial idea, at least his most disputed idea, was that he questioned the effectiveness of public health measures, including sanitary reforms, vaccination and quarantine. The sometimes fierce disputes that his publication provoked around the McKeown thesis have overshadowed his more important and largely unchallenged argument that curative medicine measures played little role in mortality decline, not only prior to the mid-20th century but also until well into the 20th century. Although the McKeown thesis has been heavily disputed, recent studies have confirmed the value of his ideas. His work is pivotal for present-day thinking about population growth, birth control, public health and medical care. McKeown had a major influence on many population researchers, such as health economists and Nobel Prize winners Robert W. Fogel, 1993, and Angus Deaton, 2015. The latter considered McKeown as the founder of social medicine. A positive growth rate indicates that the population is increasing, while a negative growth rate indicates that the population is decreasing. A growth ratio of 0 indicates that there are the same number of individuals at the beginning and end of the period. That growth rate may be 0 even when there are significant changes in the birth rates, death rates, immigration rates, and age distribution between the two times. A related measure is the net reproduction rate. In the absence of migration, a net reproduction rate of more than 1 indicates that the population of females is increasing, while a net reproduction rate less than 1, said replacement fertility, indicates that the population of females is decreasing. Most populations do not grow exponentially, rather they follow a logistic model. Once the population has reached its carrying capacity, it will stabilize and the exponential curve will level off towards the carrying capacity, which is usually when a population has depleted most of its natural resources. In 2017, the estimated annual growth rate was 1.1%. The CIA World Factbook gives the world annual birth rate, mortality rate, and growth rate as 1.86%, 0.78%, and 1.08% respectively. The last 100 years have seen a massive fourfold increase in the population due to medical advances, lower mortality rates, and an increase in agricultural productivity made possible by the Green Revolution. The annual increase in the number of living humans peaked at 88.0 million in 1989, then slowly declined to 73.9 million in 2003, after which it rose again to 75.2 million in 2006. In 2017, the human population increased by 83 million. Generally, developed nations have seen a decline in their growth rates in recent decades. The annual growth rates remain above 2% in poverty-stricken countries of the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, and also in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. In some countries the population is declining, especially in Eastern Europe, mainly due to low fertility rates, high death rates and emigration. In Southern Africa, growth is slowing due to the high number of AIDS-related deaths. Some Western Europe countries might also experience population decline. Japan's population began decreasing in 2005. The United Nations Population Division projects world population to reach 11.2 billion by the end of the 21st century, but Sanjeev Sanyal has argued that global fertility will fall below the replacement rate in the 2020s and that world population will peak below 9 billion by 2050, followed by a long decline. A 2014 study in Science concludes that the global population will reach 11 billion by 2100, with a 70% chance of continued growth into the 22nd century. For further information regarding human population growth, one could see the works of Al Bartlett, Hans Rosling, John Lovelock, Paul R. Ehrlich as well as Claire Thomas Robert Meltz. According to United Nations population statistics, the world population grew by 30%, or 1.6 billion humans, between 1990 and 2010. In number of people, the increase was highest in India, 350 million, and China, 196 million. Population growth was among highest in the United Arab Emirates, 315%, and Qatar, 271%. Many of the world's countries, including many in sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, South Asia and Southeast Asia, have seen a sharp rise in population since the end of the Cold War. The fears that high population numbers are putting further strain on natural resources, food supplies, fuel supplies, employment, housing, etc. in some of the less fortunate countries. For example, the population of Chad has ultimately grown from 6,279,921 in 1993 to 10,329,208 in 2009, further straining its resources. Vietnam, Mexico, Nigeria, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the DRC are witnessing a similar growth in population. Population growth rates vary by world region, with the highest growth rates in sub-Saharan Africa and the lowest in Europe. For example, from 1950 to 2010, sub-Saharan Africa grew over 4.5 times, from about 186 million to 856 million. On the other hand, Europe only increased by 35%, from 547 million in 1950 to 738 million in 2010. As a result of these varying population growths, sub-Saharan Africa changed from 7.4% of world population in 1950 to 12.4% in 2010, while Europe declined from 22% to 11% in the same time period.
The swordfish is a survivor of the Second World War.
According to the UN's 2017 revision to its population projections, world population is projected to reach 11.2 billion by 2100, compared to 7.6 billion in 2017. In 2011, Indian economist Sanjeev Sanyal disputed the UN's figures and argued that birth rates will fall below replacement rates in the 2020s. According to his projections, population growth will be only sustained till the 2040s by rising longevity, but will peak below 9 billion by 2050. Conversely, a 2014 paper by demographers from several universities and the United Nations Population Division projected that the world's population would reach about 10.9 billion in 2100 and continue growing thereafter. One of its authors, Adrian Raftery, a University of Washington professor of statistics and of sociology, says the consensus over the past 20 years or so was that world population, which is currently around 7 billion, would go up to 9 billion and level out or probably decline. We found there's a 70% probability the world population will not stabilize this century. Population, which had sort of fallen off the world's agenda, remains a very important issue. The German Foundation for World Population reported in December 2019 that the global human population grows by 2.6 people every second and could reach 8 billion by 2023.
Another 100 yards, and the undercarriage slowly leaves the runway. Airborne.